Americans are about to be dragged into an international food fight, and it's our friendly neighbors in Canada who are throwing down the gauntlet. Jeff Glore reports our cover story.
What comes to mind when you think about Canada? Hockey? The Mounties? Moose? Maybe you should be thinking of a donut, but not just any donut.
Tim Hortons.
Tim Hortons is everywhere.
Tim Hortons.
When I say donuts, what do you think of?
Tim Hortons.
Tim Hortons.
Absolutely. We're Canadian.
It's sort of like the place that the Seinfeld gang used to meet at.
Canadian actor-comedian Colin Mockery.
I mean, it's the best of all Canadian worlds. It's named after a hockey player. You get donuts, you get coffee, and the help is very polite.
Tim Horton, the aforementioned hockey player, was an all-star Toronto Maple Leaf who opened a modest donut shop in Ontario in 1964 that turned into a gold mine.
If the business that I am involved in continues as it is, I may have to consider retirement before I would like to.
That's the Tim Horton Donut Emporium?
Yes, Tim Horton Donuts.
Today, Tim Hortons, the company, is 3,000 plus shops that have sprung up over the Canadian landscape in the 45 years since. Do you know what Tim Hortons is?
Yes.
Is that a dumb question?
That's not, well, it is a dumb question if you're Canadian, yeah.
Can I play?
The company sponsors youth hockey leagues. It set up shop in Kandahar to give Canadian troops a taste of home in Afghanistan.
Happy Canada Day.
It is so beloved, even hardened Canadian news commentators have been known to gush.
Unlike the Americans, we don't have a written pledge that guarantees our right to the pursuit of happiness. But over time, I think we've evolved. The ordinary Canadian has determined that a morning visit to Tim Hortons and the prospect of the first fresh Boston cream donut makes up for any defects in our Constitution.
These are freshly baked donuts.
Don Schroeder is Tim Hortons' CEO.
People meet there. It's a modern-day pub. But
no
we have people, wedding parties, that want to visit Tim Hortons the day of the wedding because that's where they met. We even had a funeral go through the drive-through once, that was the last request. But it's amazing, the stories.
But don't let all this folksiness fool you. This is business, big business. 2008 revenues for the company exceeded $2 billion. That's a lot of Boston creams. And it makes Tim Hortons the fast food king in Canada.
There are more Tim Hortons than McDonald's. Our total sales are greater than McDonald's. And McDonald's does a great job, and I know they look at Tim Hortons in Canada as a unique competitor.
Okay, you get it. Tim Hortons is huge in Canada. Of course, in the United States, it hardly amounts to a hill of coffee beans.
You say Tim Hortons to anyone, anywhere in America, you just get a baffled stare.
No idea who Tim Horton is.
Never heard of it.
Who's that?
How untapped is the U.S. market?
Oh, the U.S. market's a fantastic market. I mean,
Dave Klanikin is in charge of international development for Tim Hortons.
it is the greatest nation in the world from a consumer perspective. I mean, it's the big stage.
Tim Hortons is gaining a foothold, or skatehold, here in Buffalo, New York, where I'm from, and where a Tim Horton banner hangs from the rafters of the city's hockey arena. There are about 100 Tim Hortons stores, and more than 500 overall in the U.S. Of course, that pales in comparison to well-established American brands for breakfast and coffee. There are nearly 14,000 McDonald's here, more than 11,000 Starbucks, and more than 6,000 Dunkin' Donuts. Of those three chains, Dunkin' Donuts is most similar to Tim Hortons. The first Dunkin' opened in 1950 in Massachusetts. Like Tim Hortons, they serve a selection of coffee, donuts, and sandwiches.
We have our own drive-through boards out here.
Oh, look at this.
Yeah,
At their headquarters, outside Boston, Executive Chairman of the Board John Luther explained that Dunkin' Donuts has big expansion plans. 6,400 stores in the U.S. right now.
Yeah, roughly, yeah.
In 10 years, how many?
10 years, we hope it to be probably double that.
And he seems unfazed by the Canadian invasion. Tim Hortons says they want to be as big in the U.S. as they are in Canada.
Well, it's admirable.
Is that possible?
It's hard for me to believe that. Our goal is to make sure that we continue our growth, and we thwart that as best we can. We want to protect home plate. I think we're up to the task.
But there's a secret about these donut wars. It's not really about donuts. To paraphrase, it's the coffee, stupid.
Medium coffee, cream and sugar.
Medium coffee, cream and sugar.
Coffee becomes a ritual. People drink 2 and 3 cups a day, and we become their rest stop, become a place for them to go.
Dunkin' says it serves 1 billion cups of coffee a year. Well, up in Canada,
at retail, 7 out of every 10 cups of coffee that are sold at retail are sold at Tim Hortons.
that's a staggering number.
Oh, it is. It's huge.
Despite their success in Western New York, Tim Hortons has struggled in New England, Dunkin's backyard. You had to close down a few stores in the U.S.
Oh, no, absolutely. We opened some stores in New England, and they were underperforming, so that was a tough thing for us to do. We're not used to having to do that.
Donuts.
Who's better positioned to win this battle? Dunkin' Donuts is much better positioned to win the battle to the extent that they're the American brand.
So says market analyst Tom Forte.
Tim Hortons is in about 11 states. Dunkin' Donuts is in more than 30. So on a state basis, they have 3 times the states as Tim Hortons, and on a store basis, they have 10 times the base.
So it may be a while before Tim Hortons is a household name in the States. Colin Mockery says Canadians are used to it.
And Canada, we like to think that Americans don't really know anything about Canada anyway. If you ask an American, how many provinces does Canada have? First question usually is, what's a province?
Hey, great party.
Oh, yeah, everybody's here.
Oh, yeah, good to see you guys.
Yeah, thanks for coming.